on your name. We're
Oh,
live,
some
dude.
headphones. Oh,
Hello?
not real. Hey, we have an online store now, so you can actually get stuff shipped to your house. That
Oh,
way you don't
really?
have to suffer through driving and hanging out with me.
Mm.
So there's an opportunity for you.
All right, man. So tell us about yourself. We're on with Garrett from Victory Strength and Conditioning. How'd you get started? How'd you get started? What got you into strength and conditioning?
Well, I was a janitor at a college, and there were these, math classes. And what they would do is they would put the equations on the board, and so I would go in.
Gosh, this seems.
That sounds awfully familiar.
I thought I was smarter than everybody, and anyways, my best friend is Ben Affleck. Life's hard. Really, the long and short of it is that I wanted to be a lot better at baseball than I was, and when I found out I was not good as I thought I was, I wanted to be around it as much as possible. And so I kind of followed the route of messing around with kinesiology classes and learning about exercise and physiology and how we can have an impact on the body. And that led me to competition with my current business partner, where it was who could get into grad school first, who could do better in grad school, who could find a job first, all the standard stuff. And so instead of going out and looking for jobs, we decided to make our own because we wanted to be our own bosses. And so that kind of led us to starting Victory and all the opportunities that we're lucky enough to have now. So really just comes down to taking advantage of opportunities, but not giving up on what you want to do, just understanding it's not going to initially be what you think it is. So as much as I wanted to be a professional baseball player, working with them was eye-opening and a great opportunity, and it allows me to continue to be close to a lot of athletes and help them kind of along their way.
So when you said that it wasn't what you thought it would be, what did you originally think strength and conditioning field would be like?
Oh, actually, no, I'm saying that I thought I would be a professional baseball player.
Oh, gotcha.
So instead of just working for a team. But there are so many misconceptions about strength and conditioning. So when I was going through it, my first introduction to real strength conditioning was my internship at UC Riverside. That's where I got introduced to a lot of the big names in the field. I got to see a lot of different methodologies. So when I was there was actually the head coach who was a CrossFit guy, came from Wake Forest under Ethan Reeve, and started there, and his was just all about work capacity and making sure the workouts were really hard. And then the assistant coach, who's now the head coach, Gary Herron, he was a Boyle guy. So he introduced me to advances in functional training, which really set the foundation for how I approached strength and conditioning for the first couple of years. Got me to play around with what it's like to actually be strong, whereas everything before was volume. The typical bodybuilder approach where you have body splits, you work on shitty squats, you do some leg press, a couple leg extensions here and there, a couple bicep curls thrown in, and that actually led me to being overly fatigued and not pitching as well as I could. On top of a myriad of other injuries. And so I wanted to understand more and more to not only help my own performance, but hopefully help everybody else's too. So I have definitely grown in the strength conditioning field every day since I started probably 8 years ago.
Are you going to get his most recent one? Mike Boyle just came out with a new one.
I probably will, because we need to spend money as a company, so if I can use it to actually get better at my job, that's always a good thing. So I'll take a look at it. I actually changed the way I read books. I realized that I don't have to finish a book. I don't have to start from the beginning. I can jump around to what's interesting at that time, and if I find something useful, I'll stick with it. If I don't, then it'll just go by the wayside. Because books are so relatively inexpensive now, and with digital copies and stuff, I have kind of understood that I can give myself that freedom. I don't have to read it cover to cover. Because how many books have you started, and you're like, I don't really want to get to the interesting stuff, so I'm just going to stop. And then you don't pick up another book because you're afraid of either forgetting what you've learned, or you feel like you have this sense of unfinished business where you have to go back and finish that book before you start another one. I can't even tell you where I picked it up. It was probably from one of Tim Ferriss's podcasts talking about books and anything related to it.
Do you think if you would have had a better experience as an intern or working for someone, do you think you would have started your business? Or because it sounds like you just needed to be your own boss.
Yes, because I am very opinionated, and anybody who knows me will tell you that. That's it. super open. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm very judgmental. I just don't let people know. It was always my goal, and it was mine and Kyle's goal to open a place. It was just a matter of when, and we were lucky enough to have the opportunity and the capital to get a place started. And so it's something that a lot of people don't have, nor will they have, or take that actual that leap of faith. So that was the hardest part, is, you know, going in knowing that you're not going to make money for 8 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever, and trying to just kind of scrounge and live off top ramen for that point. So it was an eventual goal, and just life situation has kind of put me where I'm at. But I would have loved to work at college. I would have loved to still work with the pros. But I think I'm in the right place for me right now.
Do you find so what is it that you do well, or how do you pair well with Kyle? Like, what does he do very well and that you do not do so well?
He is much more assertive, so he stands up for himself a little bit better than I do. I used to be the guy who kind of just went with the flow and reacted as much as possible. And when you are an employee, it's a great trick. It's a great trick to have, because you can kind of adapt to whoever your boss is and their style. But as an owner and, you know, head coach or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't work out so well. You kind of have to enforce your will. So I've done a lot better there. But Kyle and I have different ideas on how we want to accomplish things. So it allows us to come together with our collective knowledge and try to find what's best for the company, what's best for each of us, and what's best for our athletes. So really just differing opinions on how we approach things. Our experience is also really different too. I mean, from our internships to just how we apply things in our own life, as well as our own athletic experience. So Kyle was born athletic. He came out of the womb with an 8-pack and, you know, could do pretty much whatever he wants. And so he never really had to work as hard, whereas I was a, you know, gangly, soon-to-be pitcher only. So I had to figure out how to control my own body and be a little more athletic. And so that has kind of shaped how we both approach things too.
So my question for you is, talk about your years at Cal State Fullerton, because maybe some out there, 2 years, finishing the program in 2 years, maybe isn't realistic because they still have to have a full-time position, full-time job, keeping them busy. So how did that work for you? How did that journey work for you?
So even with people with full-time positions, the program is really open to working with them, and that was the best thing, is that, you know, you can be full-time with classes 3 times a week. So you have 3 nights where you're going for a couple hours, and they really work around your schedule. So I had plenty of people who busted their butts. I actually did a lot more than I let on. I was done with all of my classes in a year and a half, despite, you know, taking my time and enjoying all this opportunity that I had. I wasn't working while I was there, even though I should have. But I was lucky enough to finish, like I said, I finished all my physical classes, and then my last semester I was able to just do off-site classes. So I did my thesis and I did my internship, and those finished out my units. So I was able to literally leave in the middle of the semester and go and work for a year. While I was there, I took advantage of everything I could. I was in every research study that I could, anything that interested me, or was one of my friends running it who I knew I could ask for a favor. I made sure to participate so I could learn more about how to conduct the research, what they were working on, you know, any number of things that I wanted to know about it, but mostly because I could try to count on them for favors later on. I interned with the strength department there. I'm actually wearing my coaching strength shirt. I think this one has it on the back. I learned a lot from both Agnes and Will, took advantage of those opportunities, and used my free time to play. I mean, work out as much as I could, find good workout partners, try a lot of cool stuff, get some certifications, and meet a bunch of really cool people. So really what I took away from Fullerton was my network. I mean, I have guys who are head strength coaches in basketball. I have guys who have been working with football combines. I have guys going on to their doctorates. And I'm close friends with all of them. You know, they're the lucky few that you can not talk to for a couple of months. Once you talk to them, you just pick up right where you left off. Great sounding boards, because we all have different experiences but similar knowledge, and so that allows us to come up with some pretty cool stuff when we need it.
How did the actual the work you did in the field, how is that different from your classwork?
Applied versus theoretical. So there's what we call optimal situations versus ideal situations. What we have to do as practitioners is take all that stuff that we learn and get away with the bare minimum, So the minimal effective load for our athletes, whether it's speed, strength, hypertrophy, anything like that, so that way we don't place excess demand upon them, and make it as applied as possible. So you have to understand the mindset of athletes, both type A and type B athletes, and find something that works for both and how to be highly adaptable. If you can adapt to athletes of all different backgrounds and ideals and work ethics, then that allows you to be much more effective. So in a perfect world, we'd have that 3 to 5 minutes rest between max effort sprints, walking back, taking our time. We'd have 3 to 5 minutes for strength efforts. We'd have perfect technique. We'd have everything perfect, and we'd have small groups and get paid as much as we need to be able to do it. In reality, we're never going to pay as much as we think we are worth. Kids are always going to dick around. They're not going to do things to their full effort, and they're going to mess around instead of rest properly. So we have to fill in stuff. We have to put things in. That might not be the most ideal, but we know they're very effective. And so once we know what's effective in the realms of what works, that allows us to apply it a lot better.
All right, man. I'm going to ask you another question. I always ask coaches this. Can you think of an occasion where you didn't do something quite right that you would have changed? Like, just want you to be a little introspective, I guess.
I'm pretty introspective. Yeah, my thesis. I should not have been off as much as I did. So I probably piloted more than anybody needed to pilot for my study. I had 15 guys go through almost the entire thing, and then I left to go and work for a year. So I got left high and dry with all the guys who said they were going to be ready to actually do something with my research.
What was your thesis?
Yeah, what was your thesis?
So I was creating a new anaerobic power test using a prowler, which is a push sled.
Oh, that's right.
That was going to relate. So a lot of the people there in classes have used it, and it's absolutely brutal. It's so awesome. We're trying to find ways to really kind of build upon it. There's a lot of Fullerton researchers at Cal State San Bernardino as coaches, or not coaches, but teachers now. And we're going to try to find a way to actually conduct it there, and try to get a little bit more done with a little more time. But we were relating it to strength, to VO2, to wind gate. I mean, it would have been awesome.
So I also see that you had an emphasis in sports psychology. So how are you incorporating that as a strength and conditioning coach?
I play mind tricks as much as I can. So I use my experience there to be as understanding as possible. The better relationship you can build with your athletes, the more they buy into what they're trying to accomplish, as well as you as a person. That's one of the things that we're always going to look for with coaches, is how they develop relationships with the athletes. Because like I said, we can teach the applied side. We can teach them our methods. We can teach them what we're looking for and technique all day. But if they don't get along with the athletes, they're never going to be successful as a coach unless they find the one person who is exactly like them. So being highly adaptable is one of the things I picked up. Understanding how motivation works, understanding how to not be the wrong side of the bell curve in terms of arousal, making sure that all these different things are applied in the proper amounts. I am completely indebted to Dr. Ravingo, because I was not the same student, but I feel like I just learned ungodly amounts of knowledge from him, especially in terms of applied psychology. That allowed me to immediately relate to a lot of my baseball players with the game. It allowed me to talk to the sports psychologists and pick stuff up. But it also helped me get a better understanding of what really motivates different athletes. Because if I find someone who's very similar to me, I know exactly what to do for them. I know the steps to take to get them to accomplish certain things, but I don't know how to do that for athletes who have different backgrounds or speak Spanish or any number of things. So if I have those basic ideas in mind, then I can get people to buy in and be much more accountable for themselves, as well as how to relax, how to put their best foot forward, how to have their best performance. Just getting put on the spot.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, he's getting put on the spot. Whenever Albert doesn't have a question, he puts you on the camera.
That's me, all right.
No, so he knows you a little more well. But so is your specialized area baseball?
Yes, most definitely. So initially, we tried to be everything to everyone, and that is a terrible business model and completely ineffective. So the best advice I can give for someone who's looking to either start their own business or start training on the side is find your niche and exploit the heck out of it. Find what you fit into, what you enjoy, and what sets you apart. If you have nothing that sets you apart that you can't explain in 10 seconds, you're not going to get that person. They're not going to work with you because it's not used to you. you can say you're the best coach all day, but in 10 seconds I can't prove that. We can't sell ourselves for having the best technique unless I can show it. So I have to have a 10-second, what we call an elevator speech, that explains what my niche is, what I do better than everyone else, and piques someone's interest. So, yeah.
I like that idea, the 10-second speech to be able to explain what you're. So do you think that you should have a specialized area such as a sport, or specialized areas such as, you know, with Albert, he's our SAQ man.
Yeah. So that's what sets him apart. That's what he has chosen to study and be very good at. That doesn't mean he can't do everything else, but that's how someone gets their foot in the door. Once you have the foot in the door and people are bought in, you can get away with so much more stuff. So if you know exactly what your niche is and you can appeal to the people who are looking for exactly that, then over time you can only introduce other things that you know will help them as well. So, you know, starting off with SAQ stuff and then say, hey, once we've kind of maxed out what we can do here, this is how we get better at it. This is what we need to do. We need to get stronger. We need to get faster. We need to work on our coordination at a neuromuscular level. You know, all those different things that you can then develop a better athlete. So understanding that baseball is our niche, you know, we expanded that to overhead athletes. So now we have softball players, volleyball players, swimmers, all these people who we can easily, you know, help their shoulders be more stable and stronger. But first and foremost is baseball, and that's what we've kind of structured our business around, and it works out very well for us.
So I know that you guys, how many batting cages do you have at your spot? And
so we have 4 dedicated batting cages, and then we have a slide-out tunnel that is 70 foot, so we can do pitching and all sorts of stuff.
And aren't you affiliated with some sort of baseball organization that sort of helps you out with the reaching out to your more of your baseball teams?
Yes and no. We just have help of a lot of organizations. We actually host for an organization called CBA, and so I mean we host practices and hitting, and we have all sorts of teams in there. But yeah, that's kind of what you were talking about. So once again, having a good relationship with an organization.
So do you have other coaches, like batting coaches, come in and help you out, and pitching coaches like do any of that?
Yeah. Okay. So we have independent contractors who are basically our coaches that give lessons. We have hitting lessons, pitching lessons, fielding lessons, catching lessons. This is just another side of the business we were able to expand based on establishing our niche. So it opened up another door for us to be able to get more kids in there, offer more, and hopefully one day be everything under one roof. You know, we have these kids who are going to some guy for speed, some guy for strength, some guy for skill. Whereas if we can offer everything, then it's that much more attractive for their parents to bring them there and be able to, you know, spend more time in that facility and get better in every aspect of their game.
So are you doing anything? Okay, how do you plug in the science into what you to make it more applied? Because I know we've talked about overspeed, and you're doing overspeed jumping and overspeed sprinting. So how do you start plugging that into your program?
As carefully as possible. So
how far? Okay.
Understanding what effects we're trying to get. We know that initially, you know, with our younger athletes, we're going to get a neuro response, so they're not going to be as sore. So we have to have higher reps to try to get them out of that as quick as possible. Then, you know, in months 2 and 3, we start having a physical response. That's where we'll start getting more soreness. But really, it's just understanding how to moderate volume and intent and effort to be able to try to get the response that we're looking for. Because our goal is to get bulletproof athletes. We need them bigger, faster, and stronger. And over time, we want to apply different stimuli. You know, we want to have, you know, a phase of resisted sprinting, a phase of unassisted, and then a phase of assisted. That way, we are constantly building on the previous phases and hopefully being able to get, you know, peaks and valleys. Understanding that a team sport, we need to be ready to go at all times. So we can't be overly tired, but we want people to be as good as possible. So if we know that something specific is coming up, like they have a combine or something like that, we might pull them aside and do a couple extra things that say, hey, this will help you with this will help you with that. But we try as best as we can to have people ready to go at any time. I mean, that's constantly the crux of team sports versus a single event sport like weightlifting or track. And nobody really covers how to be prepared for team sports. So that's something that's kind of expanding now, and people always have their ideas on it. Even looking at the book, it's basically the Bible for high performance training for sports, I think it's called. It has a collection of chapters, each from an individual author who is their their go-to for that field. And so even the in-season guy there has ideas that are different than mine. So I take those and I try to apply them as much as I can, understanding that some people will do well with that, some people will not. So it's a constantly evolving process where we need some stimulus for hypertrophy, some stimulus for endurance, some stimulus for strength, some stimulus for power, without taxing them too much where they can't perform their very best. So we're constantly trying to evaluate what we can do to more effectively build strength, build power, build endurance, build conditioning, with, like I said, the minimum effective dose. That's really what has allowed us to use our knowledge and apply science as much as possible, is that we need to not overly tax them.
So what were some roadblocks that you had coming into opening your own facility?
First and foremost is capital. So you need to understand, as much as you are getting into, you have to understand what you're biting off. You need to have money that can float you for X number of months, assuming you're not going to make money. You need to have a market try to establish. You also need to understand a lot of different things about starting a business. So we created a business name called Victory Strength Conditioning. Since it has neither of our names in it, it is a fictitious business name. So you have to go to the county or the city, and you have to basically register that it is a fictitious name to create it as a name. Then you have to publish it in a newspaper for 6 to 8 weeks, so that way you can have it listed as a business name. You need to pay for business licenses. You need to apply for all these different tax things. You need to learn way too much about running your own books and having payroll. And what I just did the other day was coming up with health insurance. So you need to find people outside of your comfort zone that can run these things for you. The sooner you can outsource your billing, your payroll, your books, the better, because it's one less thing for you to worry about. And we were, we came into this bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, not knowing a lot of these things, so we've had to pick it up very quickly. So a lot of people, probably Alan Cosgrove and Rich Cosgrove, are probably the two kind of primary leaders for owning and operating a very successful training business. And so a lot of what they talk about is you have to read business books more than you read training books now. If your goal is to run the business, you have to run the business. You can put your best foot forward as a coach, but if you can't sell, you're going to go under real quick. And that's what happens to a lot of these gyms, because the market's getting flooded. CrossFit has done a lot of phenomenal things for our field that people don't really take into account. It has opened the eyes of people to what we consider conventional training, but it's unconventional for them. Learning how to squat, deadlift, push, pull, clean, snatch, any of that stuff is now at the forefront of getting in better shape. So that has really expanded strength and conditioning, because now people are interested in it. They want to get stronger. They want to get faster. So it's up to people like us to be able to sell to that person as well. So learning how to market, learning how to run social media, learning how to actually own and operate a successful business has definitely been the biggest hurdle, but it's also been the one that we've been most proud of, because we are very lucky to be as successful as we are so quickly, and nothing's going to stop us. We're continuing to grow, and we're already thinking about, in 3 years, how do we get a bigger building? How do we reach a bigger market? How do we continue to grow as a company? And so understanding that you need to constantly evolve to stay ahead of the curve as a business is going to keep us in business for hopefully a long time.
So as far as training athletes at your facility, are you training anyone, just people who are interested in working out, learning how to squat, learning how to deadlift, or are you focused solely on athletes for now?
We are actually very lucky that we have a successful business that is just built on athletes. So we have a few kind of personal training clients that we've met along the way who are just great people that we've developed relationships with over time. Actually, I invited a couple of them to my wedding. That's how close we've become. And so there are very few people like that we allow in our gym, because we trust them and we have taught them enough to kind of get by on their own. But obviously they know that they can use us for help. But primarily we have athletes. I mean, we have anywhere from, I think we're at 95 members now, and I would say probably 85 of them are athletes. 85 to 90 of them, which is unheard of, because everyone will always say, if you just build your business around athletes, you're not going to be successful. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that are in our quarter helping. We have contracts with schools, we have contracts with the fire department. And those are just opportunities that we have kind of put ourselves in the way of. So we haven't, we've been able to take advantage of them. And that's what I always do when I talk to kids, is say, hey, you have to understand and identify these opportunities very early on and take advantage of them. Being in a school where it is so applied and has great faculty and staff that is going to teach you things that are ridiculously useful and then let you apply them right away. I mean, the fact that you're sitting in the old weight room that is basically open to kinesiology grad students is phenomenal. I mean, no other place is going to give you that opportunity. And so the fact that you're there trying to apply what you're learning downstairs is huge, and that's everything in this field.
Are you to the point where you can select the sort of athletes you want to bring in? Can you be more exclusive because of the situation you put yourselves in?
Yes, most definitely. We really haven't run into that yet. We've talked to a couple athletes and said, hey, this just isn't for you. You know, we're better off kind of parting ways. We've talked to coaches about the same thing. It is difficult for us because we still want to help everyone who comes through our door. So we have to identify, you know, who's going to be big coaching concerns, who's going to take away from our ability to run a quality class, who's going to be a distraction. So we're trying to come up with almost processes to be able to identify who's going to fit in and who isn't. And that's what we're kind of testing out right now with some extra part-time coaches. But yeah, that is obviously our goal, is to be as exclusive as possible. I mean, we'll probably have a members cap because we don't want quality to suffer. So once we reach that cap, we'll say, hey, we're no longer accepting new athletes. You know, and no matter what they're at, what level, they're high school, college, or professional, we can easily say, you know, we apologize, but in order to maintain our strict quality standards, we cannot start with you right now.
So are you, as far as you're 3 years out and maybe planning to branch out, are you planning to stay within the San Bernardino area? Are you thinking of moving out to Los Angeles County or Orange County?
So we're actually in Temecula area. We're in South Riverside. So we are at the college in San Bernardino, but we do all of our work out here pretty much, and we're going to stay here. We've really reached out and become part of the community where people who don't even train with us at least know who we are, especially within our established niche. But there's so many opportunities out here, and like I said before, our goal is to stay ahead of that curve. So we're just trying to expand and be the leading person in that area, I guess you could say. Ultimately, we want to be so associated with success in our niche that people are driving, you know, 45 minutes to an hour to come and train with us, even from San Diego, from Orange County, any of those different things. And we've had some of that. We've had people from Corona, North County, San Diego, come up and hit or work with us or train with us or just learn from us. And we feel so fortunate that we have that experience already. But we definitely want to expand in this area because of how sunk in our roots are, I guess you could say. I mean, we go to high school baseball games. We have relationships with all of our kids who play here, you know, and they see us around, and we're able to communicate with them as peers instead of just coaches.
So what's a typical day like for you? As far as, well, not like every day, but like working with your strength and conditioning and athletes.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, I had a major life event, so things have changed substantially for me. But now what it is I'll wake up not as early as most successful people say, you know, oh, I'm up before the sun so I can be productive. Nope. Now I'm getting up pretty much with the sun or when my daughter wakes up so I can take care of her. I have pretty much the same routine that I've had for a couple of years where I'll have a protein shake immediately and I'll have some coffee. That'll kind of get me going for the day. If I have something already scheduled for that day, like a workout at the fire department, then I'll just get ready, I'll go to that, or I'll hop on my computer, answer emails, write programs, take care of some of the administrative stuff that I can do at work later. Then I'll take care of, you know, I'll make some breakfast. I always have a huge breakfast because I'm terrible about eating when I'm at work. And so I make sure I get plenty of calories in the morning. I'll hang out with my daughter for as long as I can, and then I'll just kind of get ready to roll into work around noon. Right now we have it set up so we're running classes. So Kyle and our head coach Matt will run a class at 10 o'clock. I'll be in at noon. I'll be assistant for the 12 o'clock. I'll run the 2 o'clock. I'll take care of administrative work for the 4 o'clock, and then I'll run the 6 o'clock and close up anywhere between 8 and 9 o'clock at night, depending on kind of what's going on. So I'll run all the scheduling. I'll run all that stuff. Try to make it as smooth as possible. Come home, eat a good dinner, once again hang out with my daughter, and try to just unwind. Usually I'll do some reading, or I'll kind of mess around on my computer at night. If I have something that's kind of, you know, I have a book that I'm really involved in, then I'll stay up probably a little bit too long and then just start all over again. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn was that the grind is overrated. So people always talk about when you start something, you have to just grind through it. You have to get through it. It's going to be so hard. You're going to grind. And I did that for 2.5 years of, anywhere from 12 to 14-hour days. And it's just, it wears on you, and people will tell you that. I mean, you can do it for a year, you can do it for a year and a half, but then you need a break. You need something that gets you away from it so you can just reset and reevaluate and come back and have a different perspective. One of the funny stories was, so a good friend of Dr. Andy Galpin, Mike Bledsoe, the guy, one of the founders of Boston Strength and Conditioning.
Yeah.
He talked about when they first opened. He ran every class. He wasn't working. He wasn't going to school. He was living in the gym. And for a year and a half, he ran every single class there. I mean, obviously, Doug was there helping him out. He had all this stuff going on. But after a year and a half, he said, I'm out. He took a vacation to Hawaii for a week and let an intern run all of the classes for that entire week and didn't think about the business. And that's a pipe dream. I would love to do that. But I've been lucky enough that I have a really good support staff. And so we've been able to give me some more freedom to be at home with my daughter and take care of her while still being able to work from here. So yes, I still have some 12-hour days, but very few and far between now. Mostly I'm about 8 to 10. Everyone will say, find a routine to make yourself that much more effective. And it's definitely helped because I kind of know what to expect each day at least.
How's your summer schedule going to change from your when your athletes are in school? How's that going to be different for you?
So that's what I was kind of alluding to is we have 5 classes during the summer. We have a 2-hour class time. That way we can actually spend some more time with the athletes and we don't have new ones coming in during that class. So we run 10 o'clock, 12, 2, 4, and 6. And so all of our athletes come and start during those times so we can have them compete with each other a little more. We just went to class times because we were big enough to, and it's something that helped us out a lot. Once we get back to the fall, we'll get a lot of our pro guys back. We'll lose some college guys, so we'll probably have a class of 12. We'll have a class maybe at 2 for our kids who get out of school early or are in homeschool. And then we'll have afternoon classes probably before we had it at 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have a much quicker turnaround where we need to get stuff done and it's a lot more packed for those hours. But, it's overall a shorter day for all of our staff. So we're just trying stuff out and figuring things out one day at a time. Yeah, we were initially against having different schedules, but it's been awesome. I mean, I'm so happy that Kyle convinced me to do a 10 o'clock class because it's been super popular. We have 2 to 3 dedicated coaches for that class, and we've had 15 to 20 athletes in some of those classes. And it's an awesome environment to have like-minded people working out together.
So do you do any individual work? I'm hearing classes. So do you just say, oh, man, he's really having problems with this particular movement, and you just set him aside, or is it you're so comfortable with your athletes where you can just kind of pull them out while they're in the class and make a correction?
It's the latter. So we made a positive and a negative. We actually have every athlete has their own individual workout. So they all have something that is completely dedicated to what their sport is, what their issues are, and where they're at in terms of their training age and everything. So the reason we did classes was so we could go through the warm-up together. We could do some speed together based on the emphasis for that day. And then our kids break off and go through their actual workout. And then our coaches kind of play zone defense. So they'll move around and be along with the kids who are more coaching intensive. So the kids who are deadlifting or squatting or doing something heavy, or the new kids. This is where it's really helped us is that we know when our new kids are coming in, so we have a coach there to help them adapt and kind of grow with the program so they can understand how things are ran on their own and start kind of being built into that group. So we try to rotate as much around as possible so we are with those coaching intensive kids while the athletes who have been with us for a year or 2 years, we revisit the new program, we'll tell them what we're trying to work on, and then can shout cues from across the gym or right next to them if need be and have them make those adjustments on the fly. So it's been awesome to see how this system has worked. But we make it as individual as possible. We make the kids know that if they need coaching, it's available for them. There's never a time where they're back there on their own. There's never a time where they're guessing with anything. We always have someone there ready to help. Or even if they don't want the help and they're doing it wrong, we make sure we're there to help too.
So was it just, when you first started out, was it just you and Kyle, and then you started bringing on more support staff?
Yeah. So we've had a lot over time. We've had people up in the front. We've had people with marketing. My wife actually, that's how we kind of met each other was she would come in and she would help us with the marketing because we knew each other from San Bernardino and she lived in the area. And so we had, we hired Matt February of last year because we needed some more help there because we were getting bigger, but we were also running Cal State San Bernardino. And so there were days where only one of us are doing a job. And so that becomes a little bit stressful when we have maybe 12 kids doing it. Not the best plan. So we just started hiring some part-time coaches to be former interns for us. And that's where I was talking about we're trying to have a process for identifying athletes who can succeed in our group setting. So they do individual one-on-one workouts with this part-time coach, and we pay that coach for his time there, and then obviously we make some money from the athlete and use it as not a barrier to entry, but the first step in understanding if they can succeed with us.
So how do you go about hiring these coaches? Like what process? What are you looking for in them? Do they actually have to be certified? Do you help them through the process of certification? What do you do?
So the first step is that they intern with us. So we have a couple interns who have come from San Bernardino. We have a couple people who have come from other schools, and it's anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks, and we try to teach them as little or as much as they need to know, and whatever interests them. If they have an athletic training idea of what they want to do, then we teach them more, the preventative side or mobility, all that stuff. Whereas if they want to be a strength coach, we teach them our methods, our principles, and try to teach them how to kind of do those things on their own, as well as what our process is and why we do it. So we just develop relationships with these athletes, and well, most of them are athletes. So we develop relationships with them during their internship. And we're just lucky enough to have opportunities where we could say, hey, we really like this guy. Our kids really like them. We want them to be a part of the staff, so this is an opportunity that we're going to provide for them. And then we get them in there part-time. We see them kind of hanging out and growing. We continue to develop and critique their abilities, so that way we can almost groom them to be ready to run a class, to do what we want, and basically be a replacement for us. So one of the best things you can do as an entrepreneur is find out how to replace yourself as quickly as possible. That way you can focus on the things that are important to the business and growing it instead of everything. So like I said, we have a lot of responsibilities that we have to run. So if we can get coaches that we trust to run it the same way as if we were there, obviously experience is going to be a little bit different, but if you have a process for teaching them that information and getting them to do it very successfully, then that's all you can really ask for. And so we're kind of at that point now where we have these expectations of our coaches and expectations of our clients, and also provide what they can expect from us. That way there's never any surprises and they know that they are supported. So, I mean, short question.
Right. So would you rather have to teach a kid or have them know next to nothing and have them learn the victory way, or have them have some sort of idea and then because I always equate this to reps or squats. So there's it's probably easier to teach someone how to do squats if they've never attempted squats before. That way you don't have to deal with any of the corrections. Do you find that to be true with you mentoring somebody? Do you think that's true? True to that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It depends on their background, unfortunately. So I would love to say that I would rather have someone with no bad habits and phenomenal body control, but that's rarely ever the case. So that would make that easier for me. So we just make it as simple as possible. And like I told you before, we focus on the one thing that's the most important. So if we have someone who has squatted before and they're really strong, but it's a shitty squat, that's where it's really difficult for us. Whereas if they just have some experience and they have good body control, even if they have bad habits, we put them in a situation where they cannot do it wrong. I mean, that's that's probably one of the best ways we can apply the science side, is that we use self-limiting exercises, things that are very, very difficult to do wrong, and put them in a situation where they have their best chance of success. Using external stimuli, using external cues to try to develop their understanding of how things work, and also put them in that situation where they can succeed. A best example on a squat is to either put your foot on the outside of their foot and say push it, so they get some valgus stress there, so they open up, or put a mini band around their knees so it forces them in, and they have to fight that. So, trying to find ways to apply stuff like that has helped a ton with our learning process. Another one was using resistance bands and techniques to teach someone how to squat a little bit better. That was something that Tony Ciccone really opened my eyes up to, and we're trying to find ways to apply it as best as possible. Because if you can jump against a resistance band, you learn how to put more force on the ground. You can run on a soft surface, you learn how to put more force on the ground. You squat against resistance bands, you learn how to put more force on the ground. And really, at the end of the day, if we can teach someone that much quicker, then we have that much more time to have an impact on them. Although that is not our goal is to rush through things, it is our goal to make sure the technique is as perfect as possible or as good as is needed to be able to continue to move on.
What do you do you have any like correlational stuff between their performance on the baseball field and their performance in the weight room, or is this like beyond the scope of what you're at right now, or is that?
Both. So it's very athlete dependent. We have kids who have gotten ridiculously fast relative to what they started at, but when they're on the base paths, it doesn't translate because it's just they don't apply that skill the same way that we would want them to. So if we can find a way to make it, quote unquote, sports specific, so that way they understand how to take what they've learned and apply it once they're there, of course, then that'll make it a lot easier. But just by getting kids stronger and faster and having better body control in certain spots, we are always asking them, do you feel like your bat's quicker? Do you feel like you're hitting the ball farther? Do you feel like you're running faster? Do you feel like you're jumping higher? Do you feel like you have a better first step? These things that they wouldn't normally think of on their own, they just know that they're getting to that ball. They know that they're hitting the ball. They know that they're running faster. So if we force them to think about it, it gets us to understand, how they've been applying what we've been working on. One of the biggest ones is understanding that they can open their knee up and shift their hip back to get more power to push laterally. So right now, a lot of stuff is going into work in the frontal plane and being able to get more power when they throw, when they get their first step, when they come out of the box. If they have more power and control there, then that translates very easily into baseball, especially for a middle infielder, for a hitter, for a pitcher. The more power they can express in that plane, then hopefully the more effective their legs are, hopefully the more power they can provide. So yeah, we use a lot of questions. We ask our kids everything. We ask them where they feel things, what they think about it, to try to get a better understanding, and then also get them to really open up to us. So then they'll ask us more questions. They'll say, oh, I didn't feel this in that spot. How do I do it? And so that's kind of what we play around with because we're very, very hands-on. So say learning how to do a pull-up, we'll do some isometric stuff. I will come over and use my talons to literally dig into their lats. So they say, okay, I feel it there now. Develop some more body awareness. That way they have ultimately better control and can do things a lot smoother and better.
So other than the batting cages, do you have any other products or tools that you're using, donut versus, because you're talking about assisted, resisted, unassisted. Do you have the donut versus the wiffle ball bat kind of thing?
We are constantly trying to get people to swing a lighter bat. It's enough that it's interesting people, but there's such a stigma, and baseball is so slow to change that no one does it. We've had some success with guys in minor ball, some people going out and swinging a light bat, but it's just such a placebo effect that they will always swing a weighted bat on that. We do a lot of med ball stuff. We don't really do anything specific because it's super sketchy to have a kid swing a bat when there's other kids around. And so we would just really rely on good motor patterning to develop more rotational power after we have established the presence of rotational stability. So we kind of have this couple-step process to get guys to be able to get more rotational power without having to resort to their actual.
And when it came to choosing your facility, was it really easy to find a place, or did it take a while to find something?
We were lucky when we found our first place because it was just an open warehouse. It wasn't an ideal setup, but we made it work for us. When we moved into this place, we had a better idea of what we wanted to do, and now that we're here and we have more ideas on what we want to do, we want to change this place too. It's all location dependent, not in terms of finding the building, but where you set up. Because there's so many different rules for zoning, and Temecula and Marietta are both super stringent on it. They're big sticklers on what you can do in certain buildings. So you just kind of have to have a little bit of luck, but then a lot of imagination, and try to build out what is the most effective for that scenario in terms of what is, or instead of what is optimal. Because if we do what's optimal, then we're spending a couple $100,000 to outfit a place and live there and take care of it for the next couple of months. Whereas if you have that fire where you need to be able to get in there and have an impact quickly and try to be successful as quickly as possible, then you find out what is the best case scenario. And the more we've done it, the more we see places, the more we learn, the more we want to change ours. Our goal is people who don't train with us for a month, when they come back, we have something new for them. They can say, oh yeah, let's see that, like you just put that in, like that's super cool, can we use it? Like, yeah, of course, just, 4 easy payments of $99.95, or you can give me yours. But we're trying to constantly evolve. And we're actually looking at a lot of different things right now too, and just kind of understanding how we can both monetize it and also how we can apply it to a group setting. That's the hardest part, is understanding that if you have 20 kids, how can you apply the same stimulus? How can you get away with it? How can you run a speed class with 20 kids and keep them involved?
Do you have any open houses or anything that you want to get started up? Like, how do you, because I know that there's got to be part of you and what you guys are doing up there is being a part of a team, like a bigger team in victory. So how do you create that sort of camaraderie in that team while you're down there?
We understand that we're all here for the same reason. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is putting yourself around like-minded people who are also very driven. The whole thing is you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you, or you're the average of it. Sorry, math, not my forte. And so we really understand that we're all in it to get better. And once we understand that, then it's much easier to make our decisions, and everything's kind of based around those ideas. We don't really have any open houses. We'll work out together, as a staff. We'll try to, bring everybody in and develop ideas and explain why we see it this way, or why we should do it this way, or why we shouldn't do it a certain way. And really, that's it. We don't do a great job of having services and teaching, but it's something that we are constantly trying to work on and develop. What time we can have meetings, how we want to develop it, what we want to do for presentations, getting people on the same page. So that's something that we are not as great at, that we are definitely working to be better at.
Okay, what role do your interns and your staff have in introducing new ideas? Like I saw this video, I've read this article. Can they plug something like that into what you guys got going, or?
100%. We leave it as an open forum. We want people to know that we respect what they are seeing, because they have different eyes than us. They have different experience. So if they know that they can talk to us about stuff and ask questions, it makes it that much more of an open environment, and that translates to our clients as well. Because if you have, bad ambiance in your place, no one's going to want to be there. If there's, a stigma of bad blood or anything like that, people are going to pick up on it. Not maybe right away, but eventually they will, and you won't be successful because of it. In order to keep that environment as positive as possible, we do that with all staff. We like to make sure everyone knows we're going to have fun. We all get along together. We hang out together. We support each other, and we support the whole Victory family.
So as far as your facility, do you have a room where parents can watch? Do you have any hovering parents who are like, oh, my child needs to do this, or they need to lift that?
I don't even know where to begin with that. So parents are the best and worst thing to happen to kids. If I could do it again, I would have a soundproof where they have a couple seats and could just sit in it. But I mean, to the point where you'll go to a place that allows parents to watch, and the kids are looking at their parents, and their parents are trying to tell them what to do. So if I have a clue for someone to run, and they're not doing it, their parent will literally try to get their attention. They'll go, "Quit, quit." And it's so brutal because it's so distracting. And I mean, we know that kids don't listen to their parents, whether their parents are saying the right thing or not. And so it takes away from how effective we can be with things. And it's an unfortunate side effect of training athletes. The longer people are with us, the less the parents are there, because they see not only how we interact, but they see the results, and so they just start trusting. So over time, it doesn't become an issue, but initially, super involved. And we embrace it. We make sure we talk to the parents about what they see, about what we see, so they understand that we're not just there to take their money. We're there for their kids. And once they understand that, it's that much easier for them to kind of stay out of the way. We do have an issue with the super young kids who are hitting in the cages or hitting with the team, because the parents are super helicopter parents. And I mean, it's something that we're just going to have to deal with. But if we can have a way to keep them kind of cordoned off, it's better for the kid, it's better for the parents, and it's better for the overall results.
So I'll keep that in mind, soundproof room. But it's also about investing in your parents too, not only your athletes.
Yeah, because you have to remember who's paying the bill. If the parents don't want to be there, they're less likely to pay for their kid to go there. Whereas if it's a super hostile environment for parents, they probably won't keep bringing their kid there. If the kids paid for it, perfect. That'd be super easy. We just make a good, fun environment, have a team fun table, stuff like that. That makes them want to be there. But when they can't drive themselves and their parents have to, we have to take that into consideration. So we're actually working on that right now. We are trying to make it a more comfortable environment that is still conducive to what we want. So we're going to move a TV in there. We're going to have, sports playing or movies playing or something that keeps them entertained while we work with their kids, I guess.
Are you doing any like movement? Any movement analysis software that you're using? Are you using Coach's Eye or Dartfish or anything like that that the athletes can work with for those correctives? Sometimes people are visual.
Yeah, we haven't really had any times where it's been super imperative for us to do it. We have our phones. Eventually, we'll probably have iPads, but no, we don't use anything like that. We'll use, like I said, we'll use our phones every now and again, but we are much bigger on feel and showing what it should look like, and then getting kids to kind of self-explore. That's something we've really picked up in the last couple of months, is that we have to put them in situations where they can do self-exploration, to feel it themselves, to do it right, to do it wrong, understand what the differences feel like. And that's just much better for their overall development, instead of just having video or just relying on touch or just relying on one thing or the other. Because as much as people say, oh, I'm a visual learner, you still learn by hearing and doing. So it's just maybe you have to, but you still need all three to make sure it's as good as possible. So our coaches are phenomenal about demonstrating. Even the ones who can't do things as well, say not everyone can squat like I can, but they can do it well enough and get by that people get the idea of what they're trying to accomplish and then get coached through it that much better. But we don't have any mirrors up. We don't have any set video stuff. Right now we're playing around with Athos, which is a phenomenal product that is really only in beta, but the amount of stuff they will be able to do will completely change the ability of strength coaches and people training on their own. It's been so much fun to play around with it and see how excited the kids get for it. For those who don't know, check it out. Athos.com, Live Athos, all that stuff. Basically what it is it's gear that allows you to put on some compression shorts and compression shirt that basically can tell you how hard your muscle is working relative to its own abilities. So we can see the interplay between certain muscles when you squat or when you bench press, or see if one side favors the other or anything like that. Work on efficiency and hopefully have quick feedback on the quality of movement, because there's nothing out there that does quantitative analysis of quality except coaches. So if you can get kids to understand, oh, I'm shifting left, I need to work on that. Oh, my quads are super overactive, how do I work on that? They start, building their ownership up. But that's really the only thing right now we have that is immediate feedback for quality and kind of movement.
Weren't you playing with some bar speed stuff or bar velocity?
Yeah, it just didn't do what we wanted it to do.
Oh, okay.
So figure that out. Eventually, Athos will have accelerometer capabilities, and so it can tell you how quickly you're moving, what direction in relation to everything else. So they have 2 chips currently. So if you can use those to triangulate stuff, then you can kind of see where your body's at in terms of hip extension, sprinting, jumping, all that fun stuff.
That's cool. So what's next for you, man? What's next for you in Victory?
More of the same, really. Like I said, we're all very hungry to continue to grow in this community and provide as much as possible. So if we have kids at every school that play baseball, then that's really our next step, is to be able to expand upon that and have them understand that if they want to get better and go further in baseball, that we're the place to go to.
Didn't you say that your league is one of the best leagues in the country or something for baseball?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, it was ranked as the toughest conference in America. And it's just because each team beats up on each other, and when they play other schools, usually they wallop them. We actually just jumped to Division I, and one of our schools in the area, Marietta Mesa, just won it the first year in D1 too. And this is against Holy Trinity, against Orange County, and the fact that Mesa came out is just awesome. I mean, we're so happy for them. They're a young school that hasn't had a whole lot of success, and for them to win the first year that we go D1 is just unreal.
It's crazy, yeah. All right, dude, do you have anything you want to promote? I guess you have a room or something. Would you have an online store now?
Yeah, we do at times. So we try to do one of those print-to-order stores. And we love the guy who does our stuff, but it was a third party that hosts the website, and so we've had some issues here and there. But really high-quality shirts. So if you want to try it out, just check our website, victorystrong.com, and there's a link there that shows the shop. You can check out our social media. You can see all the stuff we're doing. We're not very good at updating it constantly, but we're getting better at it. And we try to show cool things that really set us apart, but also kind of keep people involved as much as possible. In terms of promoting stuff, not really. I kind of already plugged Athos. Just fun gear. I mean, it really brings fun back to training because what you can do is it interfaces with your smartphone. And so if you're standing there and the gear is reading it, you squeeze your glutes and they light up in the app. You know, you squeeze your biceps and they light up in the app. So you can just play and go back to just having fun with training. Other than that, nothing much. I mean, if you want to play D2 sports, go to San Bernardino so you can work with us. If you ever come down and check us out, feel free to email me and ask any questions about business or trading or application or, you know, raising a 5-month-old daughter. I'm open to all of it.
We'll put that in the description, man. Well, thanks for hanging out. We've been at it for about an hour, right?
Last question, because I've asked everybody.
Oh, okay. Here's
what advice do you have for those getting into strength and conditioning, whether they're bachelor's degree, master's degree, maybe don't even have a degree, but what's your piece of advice that they should take home?
Put yourself out there as much as possible. You don't know if you were meant to be a coach until you try to coach. You have to try one-on-one. You have to try small groups. You have to try massive groups to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. One of the best things I did was to be really thrown into the fire. You know, my third day at spring training, I had to take the warm-up with 80 professional baseball players. And I was so unbelievably nervous that I actually brought the warm-up with me on paper and got called out by one of the coaches there. And I was just so brutally embarrassed, and it was awful. But after that, I never had a problem in the warm-up. I developed good weight. I understood what I needed to do, and I was able to get by it, no problem. But you have to go through all those periods of awkwardness and learning to be able to become a better coach. So get out there, try stuff, put yourself out there in situations, and understand you can learn from anybody. I mean, go to CrossFit, learn how to weight lift, practice what you preach, go to strength conditioning gyms, go to speed gyms, talk to anybody and everybody, and learn.
Sounds good. I like it.
Good stuff, dude. Well, thanks for hanging out. I hope you had a fun time.
Hopefully we'll be able to either come visit or another podcast so you can see the facility.
I would love for you guys to be able to come down again. I mean, it was so much fun the last time, and we had nothing in the old place. Now we actually have stuff we can play around with.
Nice. We'll have to plan something. Look at our calendars and get going.
Anyway, there's a lot of new breweries around here, too, so there's good stuff.
Not even perfect.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for hanging out.
You got it, guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks.
Bye.